Horizon d'Afrique, a production of Kwasambia African TV, bridging Africa to the world.
Brought to you by Okra African Grill, 72nd and Pacific.
We want to thank our viewer for joining us today in our show, Horizon d'Afrique. Horizon d'Afrique is a production of Kwasambia African TV. And today, again, we are meeting here in studio Thomas Sankara, and we're going to talk about Okra African Grill, a culinary journey from Africa to America. Here today in the studio to help us learn about African food are two young entrepreneurs from Africa, Nina Soji. Nina,
Yes.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And we have Eric Heavy, who's his partner and investor. Thank you,
Yes.
Eric, for being here
Glad
today.
to be here.
Thank you. So, guys, my very first question to you is this. What can you tell us what food represents in African culture?
What one food or what food in general?
What food in general represent in your culture, in African culture?
Yesterday I was answering almost that same question, and I was saying, for us, food equal culture. They are the same thing. They are just one as a whole. If somebody welcome you to the house, they give you food. If somebody, if they don't know you, the simplest thing they'll give you is at least a cup of water. That's a welcoming gesture
Right.
from an African, any culture out there. So for me, food is equal culture.
Very good.
Yes.
So food is culture
Yeah.
in Africa. Very
Yes.
good. So the same question will go to you, Eric. Now, tell us a little bit about what place food occupy in African culture.
I think it's, thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to be here. To answer the question, I will say it is really important in our culture. There are not any events that happen in Africa that does not revolve around food. So,
Isn't that the truth?
Well,
I think the food becomes the milk culture.
so either it's at the beginning, depending on the event, it's in the middle, or that event will end because everybody sits around the table to share food. So it represents a really big part of our culture, and it should be that way, I think.
very good, very good. And I'm going to piggyback on what you just said. Now, every event in Africa revolve around food, right? Now, and we know with its vast mineral resources that the continent of Africa have, it had a contact with many cultures. Okay. Now, do you think African food has been influenced by some of those cultural cross paths that they have with other culture in the world? Eric, what do you think?
Absolutely. I think a lot of the food that we consider today African food has some influence, and I would say especially a European influence, because we've been colonized in Africa by a lot of European countries. So there are some of the ingredients that we use that our great-grandparents used before, and I believe they have been perfected over the years with those influences from Europe and other parts. That's
Well, very good. And I'm going to turn to Nina, which you are actually an executive chef.
Yes.
So you went to school, learned about culinary art.
Yes.
Now, tell us about this cross path.
We call it in culinary a fusion.
Okay.
Yes, it's a fusion or a melting pot of different culture. A lot of America, we call it a melting pot too, because there's different kind of background that goes into the culinary staple in America. But a lot of people don't think that other places kind of have the same. Africa is huge in that regard of being a melting pot. And like Eric said earlier, we've been colonized. So a lot of our spices and food and ingredients was drawn from that. And I was giving an example, and this is always funny. My mom used to cook sauerkraut and sausages when we were back home, and I really thought it was the greatest thing. And for the longest time, I always cook it too. And then it's only in culinary school that it really kind of dawned on me one day. I was like, sauerkraut, huh? I think it sounds more Irish, not so much African. But then I didn't know any better. I just really thought that was the norm, So right down to like the house sauce that I make, the tomato-based sauce that I make at Okra, is made from the mother sauce, which is a Spanish sauce. It's a tomato-based sauce. We make it the same exact way and just have a little tweak and turn to it. But
Very good.
So that's what our culture is based on a little bit from any other country, European, Asian, South America a lot. We have the corn, we have the plantains. Because of the slavery trade, everything kind of just got moved around, and we kind of collect a lot of that, and that's what makes our food so diverse.
Very good. Eric,
And
yes.
I want to add one more point.
Yes.
Our countries have been drawn through the colonization again. It seems like I keep going back to that. But in each country, you have different ethnicities that form that country.
Right.
And I believe even within those countries, we have that fusion, like Nina calls it, that still happens. So some of the original food, original dishes that were made back in the day probably evolve over time within those countries because of those influences.
I can even give an example to that. The jollof rice, for example. Until now, if you ask any African, it's really a big battle. If you look out there, the Nigerian claim they are the one that discovered or created jollof rice. But I think they kind of forgot that Rio Gras is from France. But I don't think nobody ever brought it to them that way. But at the same time, you kind of see that, and jollof rice is not just from Nigeria, but you have Togo, you have Ghana that knows what it is, and Ivory Coast that knows what it is, Senegal that knows what it is, and everybody do their own version.
Right,
But
each one of those have a twist to
a twist to it,
right.
yeah, but everybody kind of claim it kind of get created from us,
Right.
but at the end of
Because
the
they
day,
added something. Well,
I think it's the...
And this bring my next question. So we know about the rich influence that all those cultures have brought to the African culinary art. But my question now is that a typical dish that we can trace back for being originally from Africa? I know our grandfather, our grandmother will cook dish that we will eat to heal, to make us better when we're sick, and those sort of things. And each dish have a significant or is used in different occasions. So is there anything that we can trace back that being typical African? Eric?
In my view, I don't know how to call it in English, but Pat, the corn bowl that we make, I would consider that authentic because
you can see it anyway.
Yeah, it maybe exists. The chef will tell us if it exists elsewhere.
I'm sorry,
let's ask the chef.
It's called
So how come the chef didn't take this question as the chef?
Well, I want to make it harder for you, right?
It's called polenta. It's from Spain.
Okay. So this dish have its root in Spain.
Yeah.
Now, is the root of the dish come from Spain, or is the African dish that went? Because we know with colonization, there's a lot of cultural art. There's a lot of cultural things that were taken from Africa.
I know.
And went elsewhere, and then coming back to make it look like it comes from somewhere. When we dig a little deeper, we see that this originated from Africa. Is this true for culinary art too? This question goes to you, Nina.
I think it's going to come down to the chicken or the egg kind of question.
Which one came first?
Which one came first? I mean, if you want to take every dish and you really want to dig down, I mean, you'll be lost in the sauce somewhere. Right. But I can say honestly that there's still a few things that we make back home that are just typical to our culture. And like Eric was saying earlier, every ethnicity, every little clan, I'll say, within Togo or Ghana or wherever that may be, they have their own dish that they kind of put together according to what grows around them, you know.
Right.
So like my version of peanut sauce, for example, is not the same version of peanut sauce in Cameroon. Cameroon have the biggest peanut plantation in the world. I mean, I think they are the second or third in the world for peanuts. So they, I mean, when you see peanut, they can really tell you, we know how to make sauce, any type of sauce with it. And the way they make it is totally different than the way we make peanut sauce, you know, in Togo too. So it's all different according to ingredients and flavor and texture. And okra. Okra is the big African, I won't call it vegetable, is a fruit. I always correct people on that because a lot of people think it's a vegetable. But it's one of those things, for example, that we eat quite a bit, and we do different variation of dishes that we make from them. And it have gone a lot of places, but I can say honestly that okra is one of those things that the way we make it is just true to us. Other places make it different, but grinding the okra and adding the fish and crab and all of that, I think that dish, for example, or the second one, jute leaf, or we call it ademe. That sauce, for example, is just typical to our region because we have the leaves, we have the ingredient to make that sauce. I don't think you can find that sauce like in France or anything. Yeah. So there's still a few things out there that are like typical.
Yeah, I mean the African continent being so old and the birth place of humanity is. I think it's, and you tell me if you agree on it. I think it's not. It's fair to say that those dishes originated from Africa, where people kind of know how to use things around them to create whatever. But we're going to stay with okra, and we're going to talk about the African grow in Omaha, African grow. Now, I was mentioning earlier that you are an executive chef.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit of your curriculum,
my
your
culinary
journey.
background.
Yes.
Oh dear, do we have enough
to
time
get
for
there.
that?
We'll find time. So tell us briefly, what make you decide to become a chef and decide to open a restaurant here in the United States?
Well, if you really kind of look into the culture, African culture, the women are raised to know how to cook from a very young age. You always hang around your mom in the kitchen, and from 5 or 2 even, I mean, like you're running around while she's cooking dishes.
And you don't necessarily need to go to school for that, right?
You don't need to go to school for that. And if you're old enough to hold the bucket, you go get some water, you go get the spices, you go get this and that. So by the time you are like 8, I already know how to cook and make dishes and do things.
Without measuring cup?
No. You just
a
pinch of this and a pinch of that, and you know, you taste. The taste is really what really solidify it for you. Okay. You just taste at the end, and you know if you got it right or not. Okay. And you hang around your mom long enough that she make you taste it, so you know when you try it your first time, if you nail it on the head or if you have to retry it a couple times or not. Okay. But it comes really easy for you to really kind of get that right off the bat. And my dad, you know, he was home and my mom was in the market a lot, so I have to end up cooking for him and the family at home quite a bit. So I already have that rooted in me. So when I came to America, I saw a need. I think really that's where the whole thing kind of started it, because when I was here in Omaha in 1994, it was just my sister and I that we were really like, okay, what do we do? I mean, how do we cook our food? Where do we find things, you know, to make the same dishes that we know of? So it became like a challenge for both of us, and every week we'll go to different places and like different grocery store, and we'll buy like 5 different sardines and we'll taste them all, and then she'll call me like, oh, Nina, yes, I found it. His name so and so, and you find it at Cup Food somewhere, and she get all excited about it, and I'll go get it, and I'll try it. I'm like, yes, that's the best one. And, you know, and then slowly we kind of discovered things like that, and kind of we sharing between us. And then after a while, we start noticing that there was a lot of bachelors that was coming in to go to school, but normally in Africa, the man is not taught to cook because he's going to find a wife that eventually going to cook for him, so he doesn't really need to be in the kitchen or anything. So I found my niche there. But I'm like, okay, the bachelors, I said, oh, we're hungry, we want some food. And I'm like, I think I can make a little bit of money there. Oh, and by the way, Eric was my first customer.
I didn't know you remember that.
I remember.
I drove all the way from 96th Street to go on 4th Street to try Nina's food, and we didn't even know each other. That was back in 2000.
Well, that's very good. From customer to investor.
Yeah.
Eric, tell us, you know, the American food market is known to be very competitive. Yes. You know, we have Chinese food, we have Thai food, we have Vietnamese food. What do you think, why do you think it's important to have an African restaurant?
Oh, that's a $1 million question, but I think it's very important. First, I'll start here. If you hear Nina talk about food, it gives you the desire to get some of her food. So at the beginning of this project, her passion about what she wants to accomplish with Okra African Grill, the concept of it, and what are some of the dishes she was planning on putting, I just couldn't help myself to say yes, yes, and yes. Let's do it.
Well,
now,
So you really believed in me?
150 million%.
No.
But I
Okay,
need to
we
add
need
this.
to turn it off so I can go cry a little bit and come back.
I need
Yeah,
to
go ahead.
add
Yes,
this.
yes,
This is
Go ahead.
this is the important part.
Okay.
She also explained something to me, which comes back to the question you're asking. Why African cuisine in America? She explains to me other cultures, like Chinese food that we consume in America, like Mexican food.
Asian food.
All those did not originally started authentic, exactly like how they were in Mexico and elsewhere.
Right.
They were brought here and they were adapted to the American taste bud to be able to help them or allow them to enjoy those dishes. And that's the vision that I saw in Okra African Grill.
Very good, thank you. And you mentioned that when Nina talk about food, it can make you hungry. So be ready. She's gonna tell us about,
A lot of food,
the
huh?
dishes that she cook in Okra African Grill. So
Yeah.
Nina,
Yes.
tell us about some of the dishes that you offer in your restaurant.
Okay. So in the menu, the way we kind of have a structure is to have like a buildable, which kind of pick between different proteins. So we have chicken, we have steak, we have lamb, we have shrimp, we have fish. What else? We have pork. So you can pick between any of those protein, and then you pick between side dishes. And so there's different side that you can pick from. And you pick your sauce, so there's 3 different sauces, and basically you have a bowl. So it's fairly easy because I noticed that America have a different palate, and everybody wanted to, like to control what they eat. So if somebody come and they are allergic to this and then they are allergic to that, it's not everything kind of mixed for them to be able to have to pick things out, that kind of thing.
So they can control
So
what-
they can
what they
control,
eat.
yes, and the level of the amount to what kind. And if you are Muslim, they don't eat pork, so I put pork on the side, then I put it in the sauce, and the sauce is on the side. And if you are vegan, I have a vegan dish. You are, so it's all kind of breaking out in a way that you can fairly really kind of build your own. But if you're really not quite there yet and you are a first customer and you just came in like, okay, how do I do this for real? I put a couple dishes that I call African specialty. There are like 4 main ones, but we kind of working on bringing more out. That are really kind of just make it basic for you. So like in Togo, peanut sauce, we eat it with white rice. So I say, okay, so for me to be able to make this easy for everybody, I'll do white rice, and then you do chicken, and you do a little bit of veggies, and we eat plantains with a lot of things. But at the same time, I give you a little bit of sweetness too, which the peanut sauce gives you. So when you give the sauce to the side, and you have a little bit of tomato salad on top, then it gives you a whole meal. So for somebody who never really ate rice and peanut sauce before, voila, so it's the first one of our menu. And we have a jollof rice also. The same thing, jollof rice is cooked in the tomato-based sauce. So now I make it vegan, so vegan people can actually get the jollof rice also. So it's a very robust flavor because I season the sauce really well. We have sage, rosemary, bay leaves, and thymes, so it's really flavorful. And then you have that taste. Either you can do chicken with it, you can do steak with it, you can do lamb with it, veggie, we have corn, we have beans. So it's diverse enough that one of my ladies that helped me, she told me that, did you know it takes about 600,000 way of building the bowl at Okra. I didn't even thought that I could go down and crunch the numbers, but I mean, I was blown away when she said that. I'm like, that's interesting to know, So,
you're making me hungry. I wanted to mention, you know,
I warn you.
the last time I was in Okra, I mean, the aroma and
Yes.
tasting the food, the flavor was phenomenal.
Yes.
Now, but for people in United States,
Yes.
most people in United States, when you ask them about African food, maybe all they know is fufu. Can you tell us about? And I saw you have fufu in your menu. Can you tell us about name of dish that newcomers, people that wants to try African food for the first time, can ask for or can taste without having the taste bud, like Eric said. The taste bud here is different without having them burn the taste bud. We know African food sometimes can be spicy.
Can be spicy, yeah.
So tell us about those dishes.
So other than having those like main dishes that are on the menu, I started to develop because, you know, my African friends start saying, oh, it's not the way we eat it. We have the meat in the sauce and all of this. So I'm like, okay, I have to really meet everybody in the middle somewhere. So when you come, you can either build your bowl or have different specialty that I run every week, or sometimes 2 weeks. There are like
Specials.
They are specials, and I don't hold back on them. I just make them the way it comes and the way I will eat it. You know, the way
The way you will eat it back home.
Back home,
Very good,
it's the way I cook it at home. I don't take it out. So like the fufu and the goat meat soup is goat meat with the bone on it, and I cook a pepper sauce, and it's pretty spicy. If you know, so you get, and then have ginger and flavor to it. So if you want to go for the experience, I mean, like the true authentic experience, then you can do those. There is fufu and goat meat soup. There is aimolu.
What is aimolu?
Aimolu is rice and beans. Basically, is
Cooked
ayi.
together.
Yeah, ayi is the beans, is black eyed peas, and then molu is rice, which is the white rice, and then cooked together with a little bit of baking soda, and we call it akam. When you add it to it, it makes the beans turn red in the water. So when the rice is cooked with it, the rice soaks up the beans.
I just wanted to add
Yes.
one thing. When we were talking about how spicy African food can be, at Okra African Grill, we keep the hot sauce on the side. Because it's a big misconception about African food. It doesn't. We can make it without making it spicy,
yes,
and that's
yes.
what we do at Okra African Grill.
Very good. Now, I'm going to turn to you again, Nina, and we know that from the last 5 years, the size of the African diaspora here in Omaha have grown in size. I mean, they have grown. Now, in your opinion, how attached is the African diaspora to the culinary heritage that they have home, the culinary heritage? How attached they are to that?
Oh, very attached, very attached. Like I was saying earlier, I mean, like the men don't know how to cook the African food, so they're relying on the women that, you know, where they can get it from to be able to cook for them. So if you are 18 and over and you came to the United States and you're African, that's set, that is set. They will be eating African food for the rest of their lives. So burger and, you know, the, Chinese and all of that, it will be once in a while they will compensate, but they will always come back to the African food. So it's a really big thing to the diaspora.
Okay. Very good, very good. Now, this question goes to you, Eric. We know that United States has one of the toughest restaurant market to conquer.
Yes.
Are there any chance for African food to become popular here in the United States? What I mean is it possible for us to one day see Okra African grow in Chicago, in Des Moines, in New York? Tell us about that.
What are you looking at me for?
There is always a dream.
Okay.
And right now, we can only dream for that possibility. And if we say we haven't dreamed about it, we are lying. But right now, the work that we have is the most important thing. We need to build
The brand.
enough people around Okra. We need to have the support of the community. So please, if you haven't tried Okra African Grill, it's on 72nd and Pacific on the south side. Please come. We want to introduce...
A true businessman. He's plugging it in already.
We want to introduce African food to the community, to every culture.
Yes.
And the way we have it presented, we believe you will enjoy it. So once people come and we learn from some of the things that we can improve on with their feedback, why not? If it's next year, we'll do it in Chicago.
Okay, very good. Now,
Wow,
last
we go
question to you, Nina.
Yes.
And real quick, one dish
Yes.
that you would recommend to, and I need a name, that you would recommend
dear.
to somebody who had never tried African food, can come on Okra and ask for. One dish.
I'll say
Bestseller.
well, now you make it difficult.
That's too difficult.
Yeah, to the bestseller and the one.
We'll go with one dish that
Okay.
the chef recommend.
So if you want rice, then you go for the peanut butter chicken or the jollof rice.
Okay.
It
Peanut butter
depends.
chicken.
Yeah, because if you're allergic to peanut, obviously you won't go for the peanut butter chicken. If you want kebabs, ablo is that's the combination like you would eat anywhere.
I hear a lot of people say good thing about
ablo is a
ablo.
sweet dumpling. It's a sweet rice dumpling. So it compensates really well with the little kick of the suya that's in the kebabs.
That's it.
Yes.
You're making me hungry.
Okay, then I'll stop.
Well, thank you for being with us today. Again, we were here in Studio Thomas Sankara with Nina and Eric from Okra African Grow on 72nd and Pacific. Come and enjoy. Thank you.
Horizon d'Afrique, a production of Kwazambia African TV, bridging Africa to the world.
Brought to you by Okra African Grill, 72nd and Pacific.